it's just, I mean, I can't even really describe it because it's just, you have to hear it. It's, yeah, you can definitely tell that it's how influential it is hearing bands now. So, and if you go on,
for a bass player, it was a dream. I can't even describe how lucky I was. You know, Josh is a great guitar player, but there was a lot of space that I could fill up. It couldn't have been better. And we tried to keep things raw, so it wasn't like, you know, bass way down here and then all these glorious guitar overdubs on top.
Well, it sounds very organic.
Yeah.
Now, so when you went into
Chris
record
Goss, and especially Joe Barisi, the engineer, you know, Chris kept the record company away.
Yeah.
We called him the shit shield. And he let us do our thing, you know, and Joe Barisi has the ear, and there were mics all over the room. The ambient mics all over Sound City were just mind-blowing. Like, wow, they have this many channels in this console. That was a huge part of it, was just the ambience of that room.
When you guys went in to record that, did you have songs already set up, or was it a lot of jamming and creation in the studio?
It was pretty loose on that record. There are so many takes of some of the songs. I remember we really tweaked out on getting the tones for 3 days. Never done that. It was driving me crazy because I came from working on jingles where you plug everything in and you do your little bit and it's done.
Yeah.
And the ad client gives it a thumbs up and everybody goes home and you hear it on TV in a couple of days.
Time's money.
Yeah. So that was the recording environment that I was used to. So spending 3 days on tones was driving me nuts. I remember they were actually getting the tapes up from Blues for the Red Sun and comparing guitar tones and like playing the tape and then A-Bing it with Josh playing along, and it wasn't quite matching up, and it was just getting too tweaky for me.
Wow. And
I asked Josh, did you have all these pedals lined up before? Because it doesn't sound like there's anything on. He said, no, but they're all in bypass mode. I said, yeah, but all these, you know, the signal's turning all these corners, going through all these cables and the circuitry and the pedals, even though they're turned off. And finally, they unplugged all the pedals, plugged straight in, and boom, it matched perfectly. And we finally started rolling on the third night. We had a bunch of candles around the studio. We smoked a bunch of weed, had some friends over, and we blasted through most of the songs. And it felt so good. It felt like we were almost done on that third night. And I came in the next morning, and Chris is sitting at the console and he's shaking his head, and I'm all, dude, what's up? He's all, the bass and the guitar tones aren't quite meshing.
Whoa.
But the performances were untouchable that first night. And we actually, you know, we did a bunch of takes after that, but we actually went back to that first night's recording. And on a couple of songs, we just went Ramon style. We panned the bass to one side, panned the guitar to the other side, vocals straight up the middle, boom.
Oh man, there you go.
It was, to me, it was a punk rock record, you know?
Yeah, it seems like it's your production history was almost invaluable at that point, because if 3 days to get to that point and then just unplug everything and plug straight in. They could have been going forever.
Yeah. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. So the song Demon Cleaner is on that album.
Yep.
And you ended up on stage with Tool doing that song several years later. How did that happen?
Right as Kyuss broke up, I think it was September or October of 95. And right off the bat, I got a call from Jason Newsted. And he invited my wife and I up to his place to just have some fun. He said, man, you got to get your head out of this and have some fun. So he flew us up to the Bay Area.
Oh, cool.
And wanted to do some recording, just fuck around and have fun. He got this guitar player that I'd never heard of at the time, Devin Townsend.
I love Devin Townsend.
Oh, he is a super genius.
He is.
I get to see him a lot these days.
Was this the Irate sessions?
It was shortly after that.
Okay.
This thing was Tree of the Sun on one side, had a couple of my songs, and then Blastula and the Satanatones on side B of this cassette that was more like, growly vocals, Cookie Monster. Rah, rah. There was actually a song about cookies with each guy doing Cookie Monster vocals. So it's me on regular 4-string bass. Jason, I think, played a baritone Hagstrom that was a little higher. Like he was playing the mid-range.
Okay.
And then Devin playing this beautiful atmospheric guitar stuff. And I got Dale Crover to play drums. We had just been on tour with the Melvins.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so fun.
Now, is this something that has been released, or is this something that's just a private collection for you guys now?
It was never released.
Oh, man.
In those days, Metallica didn't want him putting stuff out. He got into a lot of heat over it, and it's probably what eventually, not our project specifically, but them not wanting him to put out other stuff led to him leaving the band.
Because I would pay upwards of like $10 to $20 for that. Directly to you.
If you're ever here, I have it on my computer.
Oh my gosh. I will make my way there.
Okay. So anyway, at the same time, I get a call from Matt Marshall, Tool's A&R guy, just before I'm leaving on this weekend, and asks if I'd be interested in trying out for Tool.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah. So when I got home, I think I had maybe 2 days to prepare.
Oh, jeez.
I'd spoken with Maynard right before I left, and he gave me a list of like 4 songs to learn. It was like Sober, Prison Sex, Undertow. I can't remember what else. So, yeah, I went out to LA for 3 days and jammed with those guys.
Oh, wow.
And we did a lot of jamming. The first day, it was so fun. It sounded so good. It felt good playing with those guys. First day, at the end, they gave me this cassette, and Maynard warned me, if you bootleg this cassette, there's little gaps in it, and we'll know who you are.
But my gosh.
It was some of the songs that they'd been working on with Paul Diamore for Anima.
Okay.
So then they asked me if I want to go to a party at Timothy Leary's house that night.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, yeah. I felt like I was being tested. You're going to be the party guy, or are you going to do your homework? So I went back to that studio where I'd been working and did my homework, and I learned Eulogy for the next day, which is my favorite song of all time. So, yeah, I went back the next day and nailed Eulogy, and
awesome.
Did some more jams. So we hung out for 3 days, and at the end they said, "Man, it's down to you and this guy from England from this band called Peach.
Yep.
And we'll let you know on Halloween." So
that's such a Tool thing to do.
I know, bastards. So Halloween, I'm waiting by the phone. They finally called, and they said, "Man, we've been reviewing the tapes, and it was so close, but Justin just oozes Tool, and it was a difficult decision, but we'll do something in the future." And so, sure enough, shortly after that, I got that call to come out and play at the Palladium and do Demon Cleaner, Kyuss.
That's awesome, man. That's so. I mean, that's still a pretty cool ending to that story.
Yeah.
So,
and we were supposed to do this project. It was supposed to be me and Maynard and Adam and Dale Crover that was going to be called Pussifer. And
okay.
Maynard ran with it later on, and
Yeah.
it's got a revolving cast of characters. Maybe I'll get invited someday.
Hey.
Who knows?
Well, hopefully. So speaking of trying out for basses, you ended up trying out to replace Jason after oh god, which was it? The Reload album was his last, or is it some kind of? Well, I'm trying to remember right now because that period's kind of a blur as far as Metallica
me too.
for me. But you were recording the Some Kind of Monster. They're going through therapy, and Jason just kind of never showed up. And I know that
it wasn't part of that at all. I think it was after Reload.
And so they invited you and like two other guys out to try out. Is that right?
Yeah. I was out just outside this room on a rainy morning, scooping up some wet, rotten hay so the horses wouldn't eat it. And my wife came out in her PJs holding the phone. She's kind of rolling her eyes going, it says it's Lars Ulrich. But she thought it was Maynard because Maynard had pranked us a few times, you know.
Oh, geez.
And I get on the phone and holy shit, it's fucking Lars Ulrich. And he said, we've got 4 guys that we want to try out, and you're one of them. I guess he asked Josh Homme who the next guy should be. And Josh was just like, of course, Scott Reeder.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Well, and thank you for you just settled it. I was never ever sure how to pronounce Josh's last name. That was going to be one of my last questions for you, but you just answered that for me.
Yep.
All right.
So they flew me up and spent a couple of days at the studio while they were recording Some Kind of Monster. And there wasn't one moment where there wasn't a TV or you know, whatever TV camera, and 2 cameras and a boom microphone over my head.
God.
Trying to have a normal conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a little unnerving. I wasn't used to that. And, you know, I was being kind of reserved and being careful what I said.
Understandably so.
Fun. What's that?
Understandably so, because, you know.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's kind of the weirdest job interview I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then they had that performance coach, Phil, there.
Yeah.
That was in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I actually just interviewed Bob Rock, and we were talking about that, and he's got some funny stories about that. But
yeah, it was crazy.
Before you went up there, did they tell you that all that was going on?
No.
Oh my God!
I had no idea.
So you just walked right into the therapy session that was being recorded for a movie.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So I learned maybe 20 songs. I had about a week to learn some stuff.
God, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of time to learn like 20 songs.
No, and those songs are a bitch.
Yeah.
Most of them. I mean, a lot of them I knew from osmosis.
Yeah.
Kind of. So it was pretty intense. I remember the first morning sitting around that conference table and them spelling out what they wanted to accomplish. And finally James said, feel like jamming? I'm all, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So we went in and played a bunch of stuff. I think the first song we played was Fuel, and I jumped up on the mic with Kirk singing the background vocals, and when the song was done, James was like, man, I haven't heard those harmonies in a long time.
Oh man. So you had to feel, you had to feel good about that.
I got this one in the bag.
Oh man.
So it was an awesome day, that first day. And they had their Christmas party that night.
Oh,
they had a
cool.
bowling alley blocked out, and their whole organization took over this bowling alley. There was open bar.
Oh man.
And then, the next day they were working on the album, and I'm sitting on the couch next to James, And all of a sudden somebody hands him a microphone and they start rolling tape, and he's shouting out vocals right next to me. And
Jeez.
when the tape stopped, I'm all, is it okay if I'm in here? He's all, if it wasn't, I'd tell you to get the fuck out. So that was pretty crazy, sitting next to James while he's actually cutting vocals for the album. And then the weirdest part of that whole thing, James was looking for lyric ideas on this song. I think it was about the Napster backlash.
Okay.
Which was going on at that point.
Yeah.
And God damn it, Lars was correct. It screwed everybody up. It turned the whole industry upside down. I know everybody likes getting their music for free these days, but as an artist, man,
it ain't good.
It's upside down.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I honestly, I miss the days where you did have to pay for everything, in a weird way, because I loved the exploration. I loved going to the record store and searching for something and looking for cover art, or, this has Scott Reeder on it, I'm going to buy it. Or this has, Ken Andrews on it, I'm going to buy this because he produced it, or he plays guitar on it. And that was one of my favorite parts.
And you don't know the credits and you don't know anything. It's just,
and you get no artwork. You maybe get a JPEG or something, but you can't hold it in your hands.
It's so weird. I miss the old days.
I do too.
The double gatefold and checking out the art on albums.
Yeah.
So on that song, James wanted everybody's input, and they passed out like legal notebooks to everybody to write down any lyrical phrases or anything. Oh, wow. Everybody sequestered themselves for maybe half an hour, and then we were summoned back into the control room, and we all read off our ideas to James, and then he started recording it again and just started improvising. And
jeez.
Yeah, so that was.
And this is still during basically a job interview.
Yeah.
God.
And I'm like throwing out ideas for the record. It was incredible.
That's insane.
I think that was the most mind-blowing part of the whole trip.
Yeah.
So the day finally wound up. They had a dinner engagement to go to, and I had to get back to the airport, and they were pretty rusty. They hadn't played in a couple of years. When we played Master of Puppets, there's like the harmony guitar solo, and one of the guys was off a half a step, and it was a total train wreck.
Oh.
And I said, if you guys just need a sparring partner to get back in shape, because it's pretty shaky right now. I got nothing going on right now, obviously, and I'll come up in a heartbeat. And Kirk said, Reader, we haven't heard the last of you yet. Yes.
Nice.
And I think it was maybe 3 weeks later, I got a call from all the guys. It was a conference call, and they thanked me, but they made their choice. And James actually called me himself a few minutes later and just wanted to make sure I was okay. I was all, dude, I just basically got the silver medal in the Metal Olympics.
Yeah.
I said, it's all good. And he said, man, you're family now. Anytime you want to come to a show, anything, let us know. You got our numbers. Boom.
That is awesome.
So
they've always sounded like good guys. So you just kind of confirmed the feelings that everybody.
Great.
That's
I get mad when people bag on Lars. He's intense, he's really intense, but he's a good guy.
Well, that's awesome.
And it was great to see them with their kids and their whole families, and just it was an incredible experience.
Well, see, and that's being in the industry, you get to see a side that most people don't get to see, and that's really awesome. And that's one of the things I like finding out about this show. With this show, is finding what goes on behind the scenes and learn. I guess humanizing some of the people that I idolize. So I love stories like that. It's fantastic.
I'm not getting power to my computer, and it's almost out of juice.
Oh, yeah. Do what you got to do, man.
I had power when we started.
Uh-oh. Now a word from my non-existent sponsor.
That worked.
All right.
I'm glad I caught this because my computer doesn't give me any warning. It just cuts out.
Oh, geez.
And something happened to the power cable over here.
Yeah, I'm glad you caught it too, because that would have been hard to edit an ending to that one. And that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. All right, so you went from the Obsessed to Kyuss. You've done solo work, and then you're in Sun and Sail Club, Fireball Ministry. I want to ask you about Sun and Sail Club, and then we can move on from there. But for some, this cracks me up. It's you, so it's Scott Reeder on bass, Scott Reeder on drums, but two different Scott Reeders from the same town. Did I read that correctly when I was researching?
I was not born in Barstow.
Okay, all right. So
that got scrambled somewhere. I was born in Pomona.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff on Wikipedia. It says that I used to play for Tool. I played 2 shows, 1 song with Tool.
But that's kind of strange to have a band with 2 guys with the same name.
Yeah.
And
that was the first time I'd ever met him when they came in. I think it was like a joke putting us in the same room. I thought those guys were coming in to make demos for Fu Manchu. And I was so stoked to meet that guy finally. And they whipped out a couple of just crazy pieces. And when they came back in the control room, I was like, who's going to play bass on this stuff? And Bob said, I don't know. I might come back in like a month or so and do some overdubs. I'm all, how about I take a stab at it? And he's all, oh, okay.
Sure.
I think he had ulterior motives. So that first record had the vocoder thing.
Yes.
It was actually Bob playing these crazy chords on his guitar and basically talking into a microphone. And he was doing that to do demos for whatever singer came in. There were going to be these intricate harmonies.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, I've never heard anything like this in this genre. And I would rather just leave it like this. And it was decided to leave it. And I love it.
It's so different. The only thing I've ever heard that anything close to that is Neil Young's Trans album.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I thought of. I didn't put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, that's a vocoder. But now it makes total sense.
Some people loved it. Some people hated it.
Yeah.
People like violently hated it.
Yeah. But now you guys didn't do that obviously for the second album.
Yeah. Then the second album, they got Tony involved, and then I was really stoked. I mean, it's a totally different direction.
Yeah. But
Tony's one of my heroes back from the punk days. You know, Adolescence was one of my favorite bands.
Oh yeah, yeah. So is that something that comes and goes, the Sun and Sail Club, or is that something that's was 2 albums and is done, or?
Bob posted just a few weeks ago to expect something soon.
That's
and
awesome.
At first I thought, oh man, they're going to do something without me. That sucks.
That's news to you too.
Yeah. But then he was like, hey, if you're up for it, cool. So I'm just waiting.
Oh, well, and now so am I. So, and then you've done, you did a solo album, which I was listening to today, and it's honestly, I'm not trying to sound fanboy or anything. It's amazing. The songs on it are so complex, and your singing is fantastic.
Thank you.
I love it, and it was funny because the first time I had seen they have on YouTube. There's a still of you, and they're playing the song, and I think it's Silver Tree. And the first thing I thought of was, you'd be perfect in a movie about Willie Nelson. because you've got kind of the look, and your voice, especially on that song, it sounds like Willie. It's amazing.
Wow. That's a trip.
So
Thank
yeah.
you.
So
yeah, that was 2006 that got released. Some of those recordings went back, maybe 18 years before that. I had a lot of stuff sitting around, and I wrote a lot of new stuff. The mastering session was pretty tricky. I went to John Golden, who did a lot of SST stuff with Black Flag, and he did all of Sub Pop with Soundgarden and even Nirvana. He said, the best thing I can do here is just look at the vocal levels on each song and get the vocal to sit at the same volume and just let the music dance around that.
Okay.
And once he did that, it kind of glued it all together.
So
I owe a lot to that guy for smoothing that all out.
So you didn't have that as a whole solo project in mind. It was just pieces that you'd recorded over the years, and you just decided at one point, hey, I've got enough to put something out.
Yeah, just bits and pieces.
Man, you working on anything like that now?
I've put out a few songs on everything from YouTube to SoundCloud to, there's a few on iTunes actually.
Oh, okay.
There's an EP called Weaver's Dawn. It's just digital only.
Okay.
But that has two of my favorite things that I've ever recorded. The song Weaver's Dawn, which actually Fireball Ministry covered. Right. And there was their song As We Become that I recorded for my wife. I think it was on our 20th anniversary. I got that done just before our anniversary, put it on a CD, put it in a card, and left it on her pillow when she got up in the morning.
Oh.
And
that's
she
awesome.
liked it.
That's awesome. I actually, that has shown up on YouTube. I heard that this afternoon, and it's a beautiful song. It's very touching.
That's my favorite thing that I have ever done in my life, right there.
That's awesome, man. So I got to stop starting every sentence with the word so. That's my thing that I have. Well, that's what I end up having to edit out of every show. It's me saying, so. Anyway, you went from Sun and Sail Club to Fireball Ministry. What was the path from Kyuss to Sun and Sail Club to Fireball Ministry?
Fireball Ministry actually came about. I mean, I've known them for years. Played together a long time ago when they were pretty young. Jim Rhoda, the singer guitar player, was actually the producer on Dave Grohl's movie Sound City.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I have him to thank for dragging me into that thing. There was this one song that was pretty tricky, with Corey Taylor set to sing on it, Rick Nielsen set to play guitar on it, and Dave Grohl on drums. And Dave had a demo of the song without vocals, just the instrumental stuff.
Okay. And
he was trying to figure out who the right bass player would be. And Jim actually told him, dude, you should give Scott Reeder a shot. So I was asleep one night, and some fucker is texting me at 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
I look at my phone, and it's Dave Grohl.
Oh, my God.
And he said, dude, I bought the console from Sound City. I'm doing a movie about it. Do you want to play on the soundtrack?
Wow.
And my simple reply was, fuck yeah.
Gee, yeah.
And then he wrote me back and said, dude, I've got Corey Taylor and Rick Nielsen. And, I was just like, holy shit, my first concert was Cheap Trick. And,
and it's coming full circle.
Yeah, the next morning I got up to feed the horses pretty early. And there's already a demo sent.
Oh
So
my
I'm
gosh.
filling up horse waters, waiting and listening to this thing on my phone, just going, holy shit. And I tried to imagine like an orchestral part
Okay.
weaving this thing. I didn't want to just repeat what Dave did. He had a bass part on there that just kind of underlined what the guitar was doing. I wanted to, make it special
Yeah.
and set it off. And I had this whole thing worked out, and so I was the last piece to go on this song. I think within a week I was at Dave's studio, and I walk in, and I didn't realize Butch Vig was the producer, and he's sitting there at the console. Hey,
God.
Scott. I
Man.
didn't see any cameras at first, but I realized that in the corners of the room there were like casino type, not hidden cameras, but little
Yeah.
spheres spying on you.
Yeah, exactly. I saw some of the footage today. That was
Oh man. So yeah, I'm sitting there with Butch Vig, Dave Grohl behind me, breathing down my neck, and I had this whole thing worked out, and I didn't know if it was going to work against the vocals. I was worried about having to change parts on the spot because it was going to jive with the vocals, and it all worked out. I got little nods to Cheap Trick with octaves on the bass. There was a nod to Led Zeppelin, like Dazed and Confused with the band's.
oh man.
There were a few little nods, and there's a nod to Mary Poppins.
Really?
There's like a break; everything stops towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it comes back, if you listen to the bass line, it's like chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chim. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm a
man.
Disney freak.
That is so cool. So, and that album ended up winning a Grammy.
Yeah, that song went to #1 on rock radio, Heritage Rock or something. I've got a Grammy certificate on the wall in the hallway back here.
Man. So, do you keep that in the house or in the studio?
It's in the studio.
Nice. Yeah, you got to put that where everybody coming in to get your production work can see it. Say, yeah, see, won a Grammy. See, rates are going up.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. I mean, that was a hell of an experience.
That sounds like it, man. That's just to. I would love to see who's in your contact list. This is insane. All of Metallica, Dave Grohl, Butch Vig. Now I'm sure that's got to be insane. Everybody that was in my formative years of music listening is in your phone, I'm sure. At this point. Oh my gosh. So, well, what are you up to now? What's going on? You living in the ranch life, taking care of the animals?
Yeah, we've got a 40-acre ranch in Banning. There's a second house that I'm sitting in now that's the studio. Usually I'm recording bands here. I've had a lot of weird little projects. I was playing on this album called The Bassists Alliance. I did a couple of songs, one with this Russian guy, Leonid Maskamov.
Yes, I've heard that.
There's been some weird projects. I've been doing some stuff with Rob Dukes from Exodus.
Oh, okay.
I did his EP just about a year ago, and he just sent me a demo yesterday, actually, for some new stuff.
Oh, cool.
I did a soundtrack thing for a name that you've heard of, but I shouldn't say anything yet.
Okay.
But it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was sent a demo one morning, and I was really in a cranky mood. And after I finished feeding the horses, I came in here and knocked it out in like a half an hour, just aggro. And I can't freaking wait for this film to come out, and it's one of my favorite songs ever.
Oh man.
God, what else is coming?
All right, well, let me ask you a question. When is it coming out?
Oh, I think they've been filming, but it's going to be a while.
Okay, so it's not like
it's somebody that has a lot of things going on. It's like an ongoing.
All right, because this is going to take a few weeks to get out, so I'm just saying, That I did hear that you were part of something. I don't know. Sure, honestly, I don't know if this is still going on or not since Lemmy died. But you were doing the Motorhead cruises, and I didn't know too much about it. It sounds completely insane, like Motorhead, Anthrax, and you guys on a boat. I mean, it sounds like a boat you take to go international waters to bet on monkey knife fights or rebroadcast NFL games without express written consent. So,
yeah, okay, that's the segue from working on Sound City with Jim Rhoda producing.
Yeah.
He asked, "Hey, you want to do some recording soon? I got a thing that needs some bass." And I'm all, fuck yeah. And I went to his house and knocked out this bass track. And Emily was there, the other guitar player for Fireball Ministry.
Okay.
And it came out great. And they said, "Hey, if some live stuff comes up, are you interested?" And well, yeah, man, that'd be fun. So it was probably about a year later, I got the call from Jim, and he said, "We got this offer to go on a cruise ship with Motorhead and a bunch of bands. What do you think?" I'm all, fuck yeah, let's do it. All these metal bands on, I think it was a Carnival cruise, leaving Miami, going, I think it was through Key West and Cozumel, Mexico, and it was incredible. Yeah, Anthrax was on the boat, Testament, Danko Jones.
Jeez.
Just a whole bunch of bands. And then we got to do the second one, too, the following year.
Oh, cool.
Slayer was on that boat.
Holy crap.
I think Fireball Ministry and Anthrax were the only bands that got to do both of them besides Motorhead.
Oh, man.
So that was incredible.
So how does that work? You guys go and you play, and then you just hang out with everybody on the boat like a normal cruise
just
goer?
Chill.
That's
The pool was always going off. I remember on the first boat, I mean, there was so much alcohol consumed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
People are going apeshit at the pool just around the clock. And we didn't get to stop in Key West at the port. There was a hurricane somewhere nearby. And, the boat actually ran out of beer by the time we got to Mexico. And they were radioing other ships to see if they could buy their beer supplies.
SOS, we need beer.
Yes.
Oh, God.
There's going to be mutiny.
Lemmy's going to take over the ship.
Yeah. It was so weird playing on a boat. It was beautiful. We played the pool stage on the first trip, and there were pictures from pretty far back of our stage and the sunset in the background. And
wow.
It was surreal.
That's awesome.
On the second one, I remember leaving Nassau, and there was a hurricane moving in. There was this huge storm when we were in Nassau, and when everybody got back on the boat, we hightailed it out of there, and you could tell that the captain was flooring it.
Yeah.
Going as fast as we could away from there. And some people said that they saw this cargo ship going the other way, and they were freaking out. Like, whoa, what are they doing?
That was the beer delivery.
As it turns out, that ship went into the storm and sank.
Oh, jeez.
Over 30 people died.
Oh, see, and I just made a horrible joke. Oh, God.
If it was full of beer, we would have...
That'd been even worse. Oh, man.
It was nuts. So that night, Motorhead played before us in one room, and then we played right after them in the other room. And I'm watching Motorhead, and Lemmy, I mean, he was pretty gaunt at that point.
Yeah.
And he was swaying back and forth. And I was, oh, man. I was kind of bummed out. And then I realized, oh, we're on a boat, and I'm swaying too. It's all good.
That's a good point.
When we played right after them, I almost fell down. I'm getting dizzy, swinging around.
Oh, jeez.
I almost fell down when we were playing.
Oh, that's not good. So, all right, last question, and we'll wrap up, and I'll let you go take care of your critters. What's the worst experience you've had on stage?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I'm hoping that's because it's hard to think of one and not because there's so many to choose from.
I can think of two.
All right, I'm all ears. You can give me two if you like.
The lesser of the two was probably Kyuss opening for Danzig in Philadelphia, and it was snowing outside.
Okay.
And I felt bad for our crew guy that was rolling all the amps in.
It wasn't Henry Rollins this time, was it?
No.
Okay.
And so I just had to bring one of my amps in. And of course, the one blew up right at the beginning of the set.
Oh, jeez.
So I had to plug my bass straight into a direct box, and the tone of the direct box, the way I play hitting the pickups, it was just it was horrible.
Jeez.
So that was one. But when Kyuss opened for Metallica in Australia on the Black Album tour, we were on that snake pit stage that had this pit in the middle, and there was this point that went out.
I remember that. That's the first tour I ever saw Metallica on, was the Black Tour.
Wow.
In Rochester, New York.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the scaffolding went out, and then it dropped down a level, and then went out to the point.
Right.
And I didn't have a radio system or anything. I just spliced together a bunch of guitar cables with adapters and duct taped them together. So I'm out on that lower level out towards the point.
Okay.
My hair's in my face. I think we were playing Freedom Run. And I turned around with my hair in my face. My leg goes through the different level of the scaffolding.
Oh.
And I did a face plant in front of 15,000 people.
Oh, geez.
It's hard to be nonchalant about it. But I just stood up and I walked back to the amp all slow, yeah, I'm cool.
On purpose.
Swapped out basses because the tuning was all out of whack, and then just picked up where I left off.
Oh, man.
That was fun.
Well, Scott,
after we sign off, I'll probably go, oh, man, there was this one time. Those are the two that stick out right now.
Oh, man. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on Performance Anxiety Night and spending time with me and telling me some awesome stories. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I wish you great success with the show. I can't wait to hear all this stuff.
Before this